Now that we know what the front is, you hear buzzing. Yes, I hear buzzing.
Okay, it should be live now.
I hear talking. I hear. No, I hear talking. I hear the mics on.
It's hard for me to tell. Yeah, so the problem is I've got both the Zoom and the YouTube on here. I'm trying to isolate one or the other.
Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you were born and reborn again. Return to what you are.
Gemar Chatima Tova, may you be sealed in the book of life. We are Congregation Beth HaTikva in Summit, New Jersey. Thank you for joining us as we begin our Yom Kippur celebration. You can find all the details of our high holiday observances on our website, bethatikva.org, including service times and a downloadable Machzor. This year, we are offering a hybrid service experience with some attendees here in person and others joining virtually. Attendees at indoor programming have pre-registered, shared their proof of full vaccine status, and are observing social distancing in the sanctuary while remaining masked. Service leaders and singers have also had recent negative COVID tests and will be unmasked while in their designated spots. Our outdoor family services tomorrow do not require proof of vaccination, but will require masking. If you're joining us through our YouTube channel, please sit back and enjoy the service. If you're joining through a Zoom link, there will be opportunities to connect with other attendees through the Zoom chat window. Be sure to select the correct recipient. All participant audio will be muted except during specific times that the rabbi will point out. In your Zoom app or program, you'll find the option to switch between active speaker and gallery view. We recommend selecting active speaker view to better experience the service here at CBH. Also during the service, the rabbi will invite you to stand at times when you would have done so in the sanctuary, if you are able and wish to do so. This is the one evening service during the year where it is traditional to wear a talit. If you plan to light a yahrzeit candle, you may wish to have it available to light with us in a few minutes. Thank you for sharing your holidays with us, and our service begins now.
Shana Tova, Mar Chatima Tova. May we all be sealed for a year of health and hope, joy and justice. A friend of mine went to a writing workshop where the participants were given a quote from the poet Lucille Clifton as a prompt. The quote was, "You might as well answer the door, my child. The truth is furiously knocking." As my friend explored the question of what truth was furiously knocking on her door, what came to her was, the truth is that you are a blessing. When she told me this, I was reminded of an interview I heard with Ariel Berger, a student of Elie Wiesel, who wrote a book called Witness, Lessons from Elie Wiesel's Classroom. In the interview, Berger was asked, what do religious people and traditions have to teach us as we do the work of repairing, renewing, and remaking our lives together? And Ariel Berger responded that all of Judaism can be summed up in 3 words: be a blessing. His words struck a chord with our theme for this year, which is Teshuvah, we begin again. As we return and begin again, what would it mean if we truly knew that each of us is a blessing? How would we live our lives if we took to heart that the essence of Judaism, and perhaps the essence of life, is 3 simple words: be a blessing?
The CBH strings are gathering to play Return Again, which you'll find in your booklet on page 15. Just to introduce them, you have Georgia, you have Charlotte, and you have Anmin playing. We're very lucky to have them.
Before the pandemic, we had scheduled a confirmation service for May of 2020. And when we closed our building, the teens decided to postpone until November so that they could be confirmed in person in our sanctuary. It soon became clear that we would not be back in our sanctuary in November. So we postponed again until June of 2021 and planned to do the service outdoors. The backup plan in case of rain was to do it on Zoom. But after waiting over a year so that they could have the service in person, no one wanted to end up on Zoom. The forecast that night was very iffy, but we decided to go ahead outdoors anyway. And just as we were about to start the service, it started to rain. People ran inside to gather whatever umbrellas were in the building, and we carried on. I'm very proud of our confirmation students for their perseverance and their commitment to being together no matter what. Unfortunately, Angela Emanuel was unable to be here tonight, and Gemma Freeman is supposed to be here, but oh, that's you. See, it's impossible to tell with the masks. I only got Rachel because she's sitting next to her parents. Okay, fantastic. So Angela's unable to be here tonight, but Gemma Freeman, Rachel Bear, and Sarah Silverberg are here to light the candles and the memorial candle and the holiday candles together. So come on up, please. And you may turn to page 687 in the Machzor. We'll light the memorial candle first and then Yom Kippur candles. And if you're at home and wish to light a memorial candle and holiday candles at home, you are very welcome to join us.
We light this candle in memory of all our loved ones. May their memory be a blessing.
Yeah.
We light this candle in memory of all our loved ones. May their memory be a blessing.
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim.
Blessed are you, Eternal One, our God, the sovereign of all worlds, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to kindle the light of the Day of Atonement.
May it be your will, Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, that these candles light up the pathway of return on this your holy Shabbat Shabbaton, a Sabbath of complete cessation. By their light may your light be seen. And let us say, Amen.
Baruch Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'hadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim.
Among the practices that mark Yom Kippur out as a distinctive day from all the other days of the year is our donning of the talit during the Kol Nidre service. It is customary to wear a talit daily during morning prayer, but this evening's Kol Nidre service is the only time of year when we are obliged to wear a talit after the sun sets. Why is this? Well, from one perspective, it's a mitzvah, a holy obligation, one that our real and imagined ancestors have adhered to over the ages, and it can be reasonably argued that the fact of it being a mitzvah is reason enough to do it. But suppose we're searching for deeper reason. How might we understand it? One of my teachers, Rabbi David A. Teutsch, the former president of the Reconstructionist movement, suggests that it has to do with Yom Kippur's status as a Yom Maleh Ba'or, a day filled with light. He writes, quote, "The talit is normally not worn at night when the fringes cannot easily be seen. Jewish tradition understands Yom Kippur as one long day filled with light. Therefore, on Yom Kippur, the talit is worn by the whole congregation beginning with the evening service," end quote. Though the sun has set and night has fallen, we find ourselves nevertheless surrounded by the bright light of our tradition and our people. And so we wrap ourselves in talitot as though it was morning and bask in the unique light of this holiest of days. Rabbi Richard Hirsch offers a different take on this practice. He writes, quote, "The talit is a shelter, a secure place in which we wrap ourselves for the day's journey. This day that we have just begun demands intense introspection and soul searching. And wrapping ourselves in the talit offers both a reminder to be honest in our self-appraisal and also a possible respite from the internal storm that such self-appraisal can bring about." What does the talit signify for you tonight? How does it feel wrapped around your shoulders at this once-a-year moment? I invite you to think about these questions over the course of the day, or maybe even less actively than that, just to simply notice it. I'd like to invite anyone here in the shul this evening to take a talit from the ushers if you haven't already and would like one for the rest of the service. And I invite you to rise in body and spirit, and if you have not already, to wrap yourselves in your talit, perhaps your loved ones too. And we'll recite the blessing together on page 690 of your machzor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. Blessed are you, veiled one, our God, the sovereign of all worlds, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to wrap ourselves amid the fringed talit. You may be seated.
On page 691, Veshiva Shel Mala. Pardon me, 692.
Shiva Shema
By the authority of all who congregate above and all who congregate on earth, and with permission of the omnipresent one, and by consent of this assembly, we accept into our midst whoever seeks to pray, whether righteous or unrighteous, all shall pray as one community. We will be doing Kol Nidre a bit differently this year. Georgia Lipnick is one of our teen string players and a very talented viola player. And we were thrilled when she offered to play the haunting melody of Kol Nidre on viola. So first we will listen to Georgia, and then we will open the ark and rise when Steve sings the words of Kol Nidre. During Kol Nidre, two of our past presidents, Margie Tickner and Cindy Wetter, will hold the scrolls. And if the two of you could come up now and just be ready. I also want to acknowledge and honor our past presidents who are not able to be here in person today. Pam Schachter, Dan Koselleck, Katya Segre-Cohen, Amy Klein, Debbie Feynman, and Jay Weiner. And also to honor the memory of our founding member and past president, Bob Max. Please rise.
The Kol Nidre prayer is on page 694.
Kol Nidre Vesare Ushvue Vacharame Vekoname Vekinuse Vechinuye Bindana Urei Shabana Uracharimna Udina Sana Anafshatana Miyom Kippurim She'avar Ad Yom Kippurim Zeh Haba Aleinu L'tova Ulahom Icharat Navon Ulahom Yom Shulan Shvikim Shvitim B'teilin Umevutalim Lashirin V'la Kayamin Nidrana La Nidre Vesarana La Esare Ushvuatana La Shavuot Kol Nidre Vesare Ushvue Vacharame Vekoname Vekinuse Vechinuye Dina Darna Urei Shtabana Udacharimna Anafshatana Miyom Kippurim She'avar Ad Yom Kippurim Zeh Haba Aleinu L'tova Kulehon Nicharat Navon Kulhon Yom Shuran Shvikim Shvitim B'teilin Umevutalim Lashirin V'la Kayamin Nidrana La Nidre Vesarana La Esare Ushvuatana La Shavuot
Please read with me on page 697. All the vows on our lips, the burdens in our hearts, the pent-up regrets a bit about which we brooded and spoke through prayers without end on last Atonement Day, did not change our way of life, did not bring deliverance in the year that has gone. From mountain peaks of fervor, we fell to common ways at the close of the fast. Will you hear our regret? Will you open our prison? Release us from shackles of habit. Will you answer our prayers? Forgive our wrongs, though we sin again and again. In moments of weakness, we do not remember promises of Atonement Day. Look past forgetfulness. Take only from our hearts. Forgive us. Pardon us. You may be seated. For most of the year, we associate the Shehechianu blessing with joyful occasions, holidays, B'nai Mitzvah, and Shehechianu moments when we share good things in our lives. On Yom Kippur, we remember the real purpose of Shehechianu, which is to acknowledge the gift of life. We thank God for keeping us alive and allowing us to reach this moment. On Yom Kippur, we face our mortality and recognize that we do not know who will live and who will die in the coming year. In addition to the global pandemic that has claimed the lives of 4.5 million people so far, in the past month, the world around us has experienced wildfires, earthquakes, hurricanes, and flood. Just 2 weeks ago, torrential rain in New Jersey impacted many of us personally with flooding, loss of power, and destruction of property. A number of people I know personally were stranded in the storm and unable to arrive home. All of this makes who by fire, who by drowning, who by earthquake, who by plague seem very real. On Yom Kippur, we recite Shehechianu with a deeper sense of gratitude for our lives. The blessing is on page 696.
Baruch
The strings are going to play Shiru Adonai. The words can be found on your screen.
We turn to page 708 and we rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed. And we turn to page 710 for the last line.
And you may be seated.
Yes. El Chai v'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu leolam vaed. Yai ra rai 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 rai. Yai ra rai 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 rai. Baruch Ata Adonai Hamariv Arabim. Amen. And now we turn to page 712 as the strings will play Ahavat Olam for us instrumentally, but you can sing along in your heads. continue on the bottom of 712, the last two lines. ואהבתך לא תסור ממנו לעולמים. יאי רי 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 יאי רי 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 יאי רי 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 יאי רי 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 יאי רי 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 ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. Amen. Turning the page to the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha V'chol לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. Please turn to 726. The last line is where we begin the Mi Chamocha prayer using the High Holidays evening Nusach. Oh, second to last line. U'malchuto v'ratzon kiblu alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira simcha rabba v'amru Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, norat hilot osef ele, malchutecha ra'u anecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam vaed v'ne'emar hifada Adonai et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai baruch baruch shemo Gal Yisrael. Amen. So please turn in your booklets to page 15 for our interpretive version of Hashkivenu.
And understand
Please turn to page 734 and 733. Steve just reminded me that in the online version of the Machzor, the pages are different. It is 30 pages, whatever we say, it's 30 pages, add 30 pages, right? If you're using the Machzor online. On page 734, the second part in Hebrew. כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם, לפני אדוני תטהרו. For on this day atonement shall be made for you, to make you clean from all of your wrongdoings. Before the fount of mercy, you shall all be clean.
Please turn to page 736, 766, if you're at home with the PDF. Yikadal, for the Hatzi Kaddish. Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah, Bialma, Divrach Yiruteh, Biamlich Machuteh, V'chayechom, Uvyomechom, Uv'chaye v'chol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uvizman Kariv, V'yimeru, Amen, Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'alam u'lalmei alamaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'al, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei L'Kudeshah, Richu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Damira Handialema V'imru Amen Amen.
During our services, we are including some quotes from the book Here All Along, which is the book that we will be using for our monthly lifelong learning series this year. And this quote is on page 31, the last one on the page, appropriately, Teshuvah, and Matt Zal will be reading it, and it continues on to page 32.
Doing Teshuvah is not so much about beating yourself up over what you've done in the past, but about changing yourself that you act differently in the future. When done well, I think it is self-affirming rather than self-denigrating process. And I appreciate this advice from the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism. It is necessary to find the root of love in evil so as to sweeten evil and turn it into love. I interpret this to mean that if you dig down to the root of any sin, you generally discover some perfectly good or legitimate yearning. Why do I sometimes gossip? Probably because it makes me feel better about myself and is a way to connect with others. And there's nothing wrong with my desire for self-esteem and intimacy. Those are good things. I'm simply seeking them in the wrong way. Now that I realize this, I can focus on finding other ways to meet those needs.
By singing Adonai Svatai on page 740.
Please rise.
Adonai
We continue praying silently from pages 739 to 756. Feel free to read the words in the book or to think whatever reflections are in your heart, or just to take a few moments to breathe. And when you are ready, you may be seated. Please turn back to page 756, the second paragraph, the Sefer Chaim.
On the same page, we will sing Shalom Rav.
Israel,
In the week since Rosh Hashanah, I have already managed to rack up an impressive list of things to atone for. Just yesterday alone, I stuck my nose into things that did not concern me, upset several people, and added to the burden of people who already have way too much on their plate. This morning, I said to Don, this is not a good way to head into Yom Kippur. None of these were major offenses. Most will probably soon be forgotten. But the timing was problematic. As a rabbi, you don't really want to go into leading Yom Kippur services with your own failings uppermost in your mind. Don's response was, you are a shining example of being human. See, I love the guy. He made me laugh. I know we're all human and we make mistakes constantly, inflicting little wounds on each other without even meaning to. But to be a shining example, it sounded so positive. In rabbinical school, we read a book called The Rabbi as Symbolic Exemplar, but nowhere in that book did the author mention the importance of being a shining example of being human. It has been my practice each year on the evening of Yom Kippur to offer my personal confession to our community. And this year is no exception. If I have hurt you in any way, taken you for granted, failed to appreciate your efforts, neglected you when you needed me, been impatient or judgmental, I ask your forgiveness. I am truly sorry if I have hurt you. I know better than to say I will never do it again. I hope you will forgive me. And if that is not possible, I hope you will talk to me and give me a chance to repair the harm. In this stressful and challenging time we're living in, I would also like to add, may we all open our hearts to forgive each other and ourselves. And may we all be shining examples of being human. Please turn to page 781.
May our prayers rise at evening hour, and may our cry come forth from the dawn, and may our song be pleasing through the day.
May our voices rise at evening hour, and may our merit come from the dawn, and may our prayer redeem us through the day.
May our searching rise at evening hour, and may our plea for pardon come at dawn, and may our sigh reach you through the day.
May refuge rise at evening hour, and may it come for your sake with the dawn, and may atonement reach us through the day. Please turn to page 800.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanu, Melech Chapayim, v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzeh Chesed Malachim, Nosei Avon v'Afesha, and David and Adam, we're please turn to page 808. I've been singing Hashivenu just all alone for so many years, but as it turns out, it's a round. It's a 3-part round. So we're going to do it that way with these 3 Jewish times. The D minor. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Benashuva, Benashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh, Yameinu Kekedem, Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha,
Continue. We continue with Holy, Holy, Holy in your booklet on page 22.
Lord
continue with Open the Gates in your booklets on page 18.
Turn now to page 816. In the middle of the page, and just at the bottom of the page in the transliteration. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu selach lanu mechal lanu kaper lanu hiyanu amecha yata Eloheinu anu amecha v'yata avinu anu Avadecha v'yata Adonenu anu kahalecha v'ata chelkeinu anu nachalatecha v'yata goralenu anu tzonecha v'yata roeinu anu charamecha v'yata notreinu Anu folatecha v'yata yotzreinu Anu rayatecha v'yata dodenu Anu segulatecha v'yata kroveinu Anu amecha v'yata makenu Anu ma'amilecha V'yata ma'amireinu.
have a friend whose toilet stopped working during the pandemic. She was afraid to have a plumber come into her apartment, so for months, she flushed the toilet by pouring water from her sink into the toilet bowl. As soon as she was vaccinated, the first thing she did was to call the plumber. My friend's situation was extreme, but I imagine that most of us had repairs that were delayed or put off during the pandemic. Elective surgery was put on hold while hospitals poured all their resources into treating COVID patients. Dental appointments could wait. Cleaning carpets or painting interior walls were not worth the risk of our health. Some people even hesitated to bring their cars to the garage if it meant coming into contact with strangers. And once people began to get vaccinated, didn't it feel good to finally get some of those repairs done? It seemed that repair was part of what it meant to return to our more normal lives. Even going to the dentist seemed exciting. I suggested repair as the yearly unifying message for CBH this year. I thought that was the task ahead of us, to repair our lives, our communities, and our world. But others felt that it was too negative. Instead of focusing on what's wrong and has been broken, people felt that we should look forward to a new beginning. Our compromise was to include the word teshuvah in our yearly unifying message. Teshuvah, meaning return, but also repentance, acknowledges that part of returning includes repair, repairing the broken parts of ourselves, repairing the broken parts of our relationships, repairing the broken parts of our communities and our society. As we enter Yom Kippur, the one day of the year when we focus intensely on teshuvah, I want to draw our attention to the need for repair, not only of our cars and our plumbing, our knees and our hips, but of our country. I'm not quite sure how it escaped me, but only recently did I make the connection between the word repair and reparations. Repair is a familiar word. We all understand the need to repair a flat tire, have a cavity filled, fix a leaking roof, or sew something that is torn. But the word reparations pushes people's buttons. Many liberal Jews who love the concept of tikkun olam, which means repair of the world, balk at the suggestion of reparations for the descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. After all, most of our families were immigrants who arrived after slavery ended. Why should we be responsible? Besides, the people who were harmed are long dead. Why should we make reparations to their descendants so many generations later? Even people who are open to the need for reparations wonder how we could possibly figure out whom to compensate, how much, and in what ways. It's easier just to not think about it. However, I believe that as Jews, we must think about it. As Jews, we appreciate the justice of reparations for Holocaust survivors. As Jews, we understand the concept of communal responsibility. As Jews, we know the pain of being exiled from our ancestral land. As Jews, our foundational story is of a people who were enslaved and oppressed, a people who worship a God of liberation, a God who lifts up the fallen and frees the captives. On this day of teshuvah, of repair and return, I want to ask us as a community to begin to think about reparations. Perhaps we can apply the familiar, comfortable concept of repair to our country. It is a good, strong country in many ways, but like everything else, it is in need of some much delayed repair. The 19th century French political philosopher and historian Alexis de Tocqueville observed that the greatness of America lies not in being more enlightened than any other nation, but rather in her ability to repair her faults. In many ways, this has turned out to be true. Over the centuries, America has come closer to fulfilling its founding ideal that all men are created equal. Voting rights have extended beyond white male landowners, and significant advances have been achieved in equality for women, people of color, and people with disabilities and people with LGBTQ identities. Yet despite amendments to the Constitution and legislation enacted at the federal and local levels, America has yet to repair the genocide and theft of land committed against Native Americans and the wrong done to Africans who were kidnapped, sold, and enslaved in our country for 250 years, as well as the brutal history of violence, denial of human rights, and mass incarceration perpetrated on African Americans since the end of slavery. If we are to repair the broken parts of our country, how would we go about it? Where do we begin? The Torah provides valuable guidance. About a passage from Deuteronomy tells us, if a fellow Hebrew, man or woman, is sold to you, they shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall set them free. When you set them free, do not let them go empty-handed. Furnish them from the flock, threshing floor, and vat with which Adonai your God has blessed you. Bear in mind that you were slaves in the land of Egypt, and Adonai your God redeemed you. Therefore, I enjoin this commandment upon you today. Deuteronomy is not the first time the Torah introduces the concept that freed slaves must not go away empty-handed. At the burning bush, God tells Moses, when you go out of Egypt, you will not go empty-handed. Each woman shall borrow from her neighbor objects of silver and gold and clothing. In Torah discussions, people often express discomfort with this, quote, borrowing from the Egyptians. Isn't it stealing, they ask. However, this is neither borrowing nor stealing. This is repair. The Israelites had served the Egyptian masters with unpaid labor for 400 years. And as we are explicitly commanded in Deuteronomy, a slave must not go away empty-handed. The Torah is quite specific about what we must do when a person has been wronged. In the book of Numbers, we are told, when a man or woman commits any wrong against a fellow human being, and they realize their guilt, they shall confess the wrong they have done. They shall make restitution in the principal amount and add 1/5 to it, giving it to the person they have wronged. In the United States, this has never happened. There has been no acknowledgement of the wrong and no restitution. During the Civil War, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman issued Special Field Order 15 to allot 40-acre parcels of land to freed people. However, after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, President Andrew Johnson annulled Special Order 15. The land remained in the hands of former slave owners, with formerly enslaved people enduring a new form of economic bondage as sharecroppers. Further, when President Lincoln abolished slavery in Washington, D.C. in 1862, slave owners were paid $300 of compensation for each slave, but the people who were emancipated received nothing for the years of labor that enriched their owners. In the United States, the formerly enslaved indeed went away empty-handed. Does this still matter 150 years later? Do descendants of enslaved people deserve reparations? The statistics suggest that they do. The history of slavery, Jim Crow laws, and discrimination in education, housing, and employment have engendered a 10-to-1 wealth gap between white people and Black people in this country. Shockingly, the wealth gap has not decreased since 1968, despite the advances of the civil rights movement, suggesting that legislation to end discrimination has not succeeded in solving the problem of income and wealth inequality. As Jews, we understand the importance of verbal confession and communal responsibility. In a few moments, we will recite a shamnu, we are guilty. It is an alphabetical list of sins that each of us personally may or may not have committed. In reciting a shamnu, we recognize that each of us is responsible for what happens in our communities and in our society. As Abraham Joshua Heschel expressed so eloquently, in a democracy, some are guilty, but all are responsible. Jewish tradition does not permit us to throw up our hands and say, "Don't blame me, I didn't do it." Regardless of when our families came to this country, we all live in a nation that has committed a terrible wrong toward our fellow human beings. Most of us live and work on land that was stolen from Native people, and all of us benefit from the wealth created from the labor of people who were forcibly enslaved, mistreated, murdered, and terrorized. We have a responsibility to repair this wrong. There is currently legislation proposed both in New Jersey and in the United States House of Representatives to consider reparations for African Americans. We recognize that there is also a need for similar bills to address reparations for Native Americans, and we hope to see those bills proposed in the future. As citizens, we can contact our elected representatives to express our support for these bills. Even if our government does not yet have the political will to apologize for the wrongs and repair the ongoing harm, we can begin with ourselves. As individuals and as a community, we can follow the path laid out in the Torah to realize our guilt, confess the wrong, and repair the harm. Like the grinding noise in a car or the persistent pain in your body, the signs that our nation is in need of repair are all around us. The signs are there in increasing income and wealth disparity, in the ongoing murder of unarmed Black people at the hands of police officers and the lack of accountability, in mass incarceration of people of color for low-level drug offenses, and high rates of poverty and alcoholism in Native communities. We all know from lived experience that problems do not go away when we ignore them. We also know how good it feels when we stop procrastinating, roll up our sleeves, and get down to the important work of repairing what is broken. The Anti-Racism Project of Congregation Beth HaTikvah has committed to addressing reparations this year. We will begin with a focus on reparations for African Americans. Through education, discussion, and consultation with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, our goal is to identify and implement a form of reparations that will help repair the wrongs committed by our country. We hope to provide leadership on this issue in the Jewish community locally and beyond. As a first step, we are joining the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice initiative to say the word. We need to become more comfortable using the word reparations. We need to discuss reparations in our community with our families, our friends, our coworkers. Tomorrow, between the morning and afternoon services, our Anti-Racism Project will hold a discussion on reparations, and I hope you will consider spending some time on this day of Teshuvah, considering how we as Jews can atone for and repair the ongoing harm of racism. Jewish tradition insists that we cannot ask forgiveness from God until we seek forgiveness from other people. This is usually much more difficult than coming to services and reciting prayers. Real teshuvah takes effort. When we recite a shamnu, we acknowledge that a wrong has been committed and we are all responsible. It is the custom at Congregation Beth HaTikvah when we recite a shamnu to open our hand and let go of the sins after we say each one. Recently, I heard someone point out that when our hands are at rest, the fingers are slightly curled. It actually takes a bit of effort to fully open our hands and release. This year, when we recite a Shamnu, we beat our chests in recognition of the wrongs that have been done in our name. And when we let go, let's make that extra effort to open our hands fully in recognition that it will take some effort on our part to repair the wrong. Please rise and turn to page 820.
Ashamnu, Bagagnu, Gazalnu, Ibarnu Dofi, ay, 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 Evinu, Behir Shanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu Shaker, ay, 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 Yatsnura, Izavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Saranu, Ahavinu, Ashanu, Saranu, Ishinu Oref, ay, 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 Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu.
Please turn to page 827 as Rabbi and I, yourself read the English with the Rabbi, and if you the Hebrew also, right? But at any rate, it's a responsive sort of thing. We're on 828. Yes, and 827 for the English.
For the wrong that we have done before you in the closing of the heart. And for the wrong that we have done before you without knowing what we do. For the wrong that we have done before you, whether open or concealed. And for the wrong that we have done before you knowingly and by deceit. For the wrong that we have done before you through the prompting of the heart. And for the wrong that we have done before you through the influence of others. For the wrong that we have done before you, whether by intention or mistake. And for the wrong that we have done before you by the hand of violence. For the wrong that we have done before you through our foolishness of speech. and for the wrong that we have done before you through an evil inclination.
Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu achet shechatan lefanecha v'chapat shochad
For the wrong that we have done before you in the palming of a bribe,
v'achet shechatan lefanecha b'latzon
and for the wrong that we have done before you by expressions of contempt.
achet shechatan lefanecha b'ma'achal u'b'mishteh
For the wrong that we have done before you through misuse of food and drink,
v'achet shechatan lefanecha b'neshech u'b'marbit
and for the wrong that we have done before you by our avarice and greed.
achet shechatan lefanecha b'sikur ayin
For the wrong that we have done before you through offensive gaze,
v'achet shechatan lefanecha b'einayim ramot
and for the wrong that we have done before you through a condescending glance.
v'al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu achet shechatan lefanecha biflilut
For the wrong that we have done before you by our quickness to oppose,
v'achet shechatan lefanecha b'tzdiat re'ah
and for the wrong that we have done before you by deception of a friend,
achet shechatan lefanecha b'kashut orel
for the wrong that we have done before you by unwillingness to change,
v'achet shechatan lefanecha b'ritzat raglayim lehara
and for the wrong that we have done before you by our running to embrace an evil act,
achet shechatan lefanecha b'sinat chinam
for the wrong that we have done before you by our groundless hatred,
v'achet shechatan v'achet shechatan lefanecha b'tshumet yad
and for the wrong that we have done before you in the giving of false pledge.
v'al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
We turn to page 22 in our booklets, Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Koleinu Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Me'al Aleinu V'taveinu Avinu Malkeinu Kaledever V'cherem v'ra'av Me'aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Kalech Otzar Umasti Me'aleinu Avinu Malkeinu
You may be seated. Turn to page 1188.
Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
V'alema dirachi rute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayachon v'yomechon. V'mchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yimiru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach. Leolam alamei alamaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yittadar v'yittale v'yittalal shmei dekudesha shmei dekudesha refu le'ela le'ela mikol brachata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma. Tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma. V'yimiru. Amen. Titkabal salotahon uva utachon b'chol beit Yisrael kadam avuhon divishmaya. Divishmaya, divishmaya, v'yimiru. Amen. Yeheshlam araba min shemaya, v'chayim, v'chayim, aleinu, aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimiru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Booyah, say shalom, aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yal kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimiru, v'yimiru, amen.
Our thoughts turn to those who are in need of healing. And we are going to ask people at home to, if you have the names of people that are in need of healing in your life, to please unmute. And for people in the sanctuary, we're not going to go person by person. So as soon as people have had a chance to unmute, feel free to just say the names in unison, more or less, and we will then hear our teen string players play Misha Barach, our song of healing. So please go ahead and say the names.
Rosalind.
Rose,
Debbie
and
Coyle.
Nikolowski.
Adrian Rosmovitz.
Helena Axelrod.
Dr. George Sorgiovanni.
Debbie Coyle.
Misha Barach song is in the inside back. It'll be on the screen. pray for refuah shlema, a complete healing of body and of spirit for all those that we have named, as well as for all the people throughout the world who are in need of healing. We now turn to page 23 in our booklets for Hatikva and Please Rise. Please turn to page 579 in Mahzor, the prayer for our country.
Sovereign of the universe, mercifully receive our prayer for our land and its government. Let your blessing pour out on this land and all officials of this country who are occupied in good faith with the public needs. Instruct them from your Torah's laws. Enable them to understand your principles of justice so that peace and tranquility, happiness and freedom might never turn away from our land. Please, wise one, God of the life breath of all flesh, waken your spirit within all inhabitants of our land and plant among the peoples of different nationalities and faiths who dwell here love and brotherhood, peace and friendship. Uproot from their hearts all hatred and enmity, all jealousy and vying for supremacy. Fulfill the yearning of all the people of our country to speak proudly in its honor. Fulfill their desire to see it become a light to all nations. Therefore, may it be your will that our land should be a blessing to all inhabitants of the globe. Cause friendship and freedom to dwell among all peoples. And soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Let them learn no longer ways of war. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Liza. Please be seated.
Now we'll sing the Hebrew version of that last quote about nation not lifting sword against nation. Lo Yisagor.
Please turn to page 27 in your booklets. It is upon us by Tricia Arlen. It is upon us. It is upon us to repair the broken pieces. It is upon us to comfort the sick in body and heart. It is upon us to bring sweetness to those around us. It is upon us to face the truth. It is upon us to know when we have choices. It is upon us to see that justice is done. It is upon us to be kind. It is upon us to be mindful and compassionate. It is upon us to forgive and be forgiven. It is upon us to do tshuva, returning to our true and decent selves. It is upon us to do tefillah, understanding that our prayers are holy conversations. It is upon us to do tzedakah, standing up for the survival of all our communities. It is upon us to vote. We bend our knees. We bend our knees to acknowledge how small we are in the face of all this responsibility. We bend our knees to warm up for all the hard work. We bend our knees so that we may dance. We are all one in the oneness. There is no other, and there is no one else to do the work. It is upon us to save the world. Sorry.
Please rise and turn to page 1202. If someone wouldn't mind opening the ark for Elena.
If you have lost a loved one in the past year and you wish to, please rise as your loved one's name is read. S. Marie Miller, father of Ian. Harold Levine, father of Lois Stransky Hurley. Marcia Katz, mother of Peter Heyman. Sylvia Killian, mother of Caitlin. Rivka Winman, sister-in-law of Regina Braun. Is there anyone else in the sanctuary who is in mourning or observing a yard site? Is there anyone at home who is in mourning or observing a yard site? If so, please unmute yourselves and say the names. Please rise to join the mourners. Return to page 1188. The Mourner's Kaddish. Please note that during the high holidays, the word le'ela is repeated twice.
I think it's 1,215, 1215.
1188. I'm sorry, I'm on Kaddish Tit Kabal. My mistake. All those Kaddishes. Yes, you're right. Page 1215. All I saw was Kaddish and it looked right to me. Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'kadash shmei rabbah. V'alma divrach hiroteh v'amlich malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayed chol beit Yisrael. V'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach v'alam lamei almai. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah brichu. Le'ela le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. Chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing. Please be seated. In the past, I've asked people to leave the sanctuary on Kol Nidre in silence. I'm not going to ask those of you who are here in person this year to do that. because we have so few opportunities to be together. However, I do encourage everyone to try to maintain an awareness of being in sacred time. Consider not turning on your TV or radio or computer for this 24-hour period. This is a precious time for reflection, for discussion with friends and family, reading poetry, listening to music, being in nature, whatever it is that for you will be meaningful. Most people are aware that Yom Kippur is a fast day. In Jewish tradition, this means that from sundown to sundown, we do not eat, drink, bathe, anoint ourselves with cosmetics or perfume, or have sexual relations. It is also a tradition to wear white on Yom Kippur. Observant Jewish men traditionally wore kittel. I'm wearing a kittel tonight, and a kittel is a simple robe that Jewish men traditionally wore for their weddings and were also buried in. The idea is that on Yom Kippur, we put aside our fancy clothes and wear simple white garments. Putting on white clothing can help create a feeling of holiness. And I also think that while we're apart from each other, that if we wear even a little bit of white, it can help us feel more connected to each other. The goal is to make this Day of Atonement a different experience from every other day of the year. Our services resume at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and our string players will take us out by repeating Return Again, and I just want to thank all of them for bringing us this beautiful music that helps us to feel the spirit of this holiday. So, thank you.